Space law refers to the body of international and domestic laws, treaties, agreements, regulations, and principles that govern activities and operations in outer space. As humanity expands its presence and activities in space, space law plays a crucial role in regulating space exploration, satellite operations, commercial space activities, space tourism, space debris mitigation, planetary protection, and international cooperation in space. The legal framework for space activities is primarily based on international treaties and agreements developed under the auspices of the United Nations, UN, and other international organizations. Key principles and legal instruments governing activities in outer space include Outer Space Treaty, OST, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1967. The Outer Space Treaty is the foundational legal instrument governing the exploration and use of outer space. The OST establishes fundamental principles, such as the freedom of exploration and use of outer space for peaceful purposes, the prohibition of military activities and weapons of mass destruction in space, the principle of non-appropriation of celestial bodies, and the obligation to avoid harmful contamination of space environments. Rescue Agreement. The agreement on the rescue of astronauts, the return of astronauts, and the return of objects launched into outer space, adopted in 1968, establishes procedures and obligations for the rescue and return of astronauts, spacecraft, and space objects in distress or emergency situations. Liability Convention. The Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Objects, adopted in 1972, establishes liability principles and compensation mechanisms for damages caused by space objects, including collisions, accidents, and space debris. Registration Convention. The Convention on Registration of Objects Launched into Outer Space, adopted in 1975, requires states to register space objects launched into Earth orbit or beyond and provide information on their characteristics, orbits, and ownership. Moon Agreement. The agreement governing the activities of states on the Moon and other celestial bodies, adopted in 1979, establishes principles and regulations for the exploration and use of the Moon and other celestial bodies, including provisions for equitable resource utilization, environmental protection, and international cooperation. Space Debris Mitigation Guidelines. The United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, COPUOS, has developed voluntary guidelines and best practices for the mitigation of space debris, including measures to minimize the generation of debris, prevent collisions, and safely deorbit defunct satellites and space objects. Commercial Space Regulations. National governments and regulatory agencies develop and enforce regulations and licensing requirements for commercial space activities, including satellite launches, space tourism, space mining, and satellite communication services. These regulations address safety, environmental protection, liability, insurance, and compliance with international obligations under space law. International cooperation and collaboration are essential for the effective implementation and enforcement of space law principles and regulations. Spacefaring nations, international organizations, industry stakeholders, and the scientific community work together to promote responsible space behavior, share information and best practices, address common challenges, and enhance space governance and sustainability. In addition to international treaties and agreements, space law encompasses domestic laws and regulations enacted by individual countries to regulate and oversee space activities conducted within their jurisdiction. National space laws address a wide range of issues, including licensing and permitting, export control, intellectual property rights, liability and insurance, cybersecurity, and national security considerations related to space activities. As space exploration and commercial activities continue to evolve, space law will play an increasingly important role in shaping the future of humanity's activities in outer space. Efforts to strengthen international cooperation, enhance regulatory frameworks, promote transparency and accountability, and address emerging challenges such as space debris, orbital congestion, and space traffic management are essential for ensuring the peaceful, safe, and sustainable use of outer space for the benefit of present and future generations.